Good morning, Order. I'm Corey. I'm here with James. Say hi, James.
Hello, Order.
Today, we're going to talk about historical references in world building. James here, he is a world building hobbyist. And
Yeah,
one of
and
those.
everybody who is involved in gaming actually is involved in world building, whether they realize it or not. Every time a player makes a backstory, they're world building. Every time the game master creates an NPC, they're world building. It's all adding to the world of their game.
So, we're going to discuss a topic given to us by one of our patrons, Ecthillion. We want to tackle this topic, which is how accurate should you be in depicting historical events or religions or cultures? I think on the surface, you might say, hey, you can just mimic all of them. It's just a game, right? Have you ever seen this episode of Seinfeld where Kramer is playing a game of Risk? And they're in the final places of the game. They're playing it on the subway, and somebody invades Ukraine. And then...
Yeah, well, we're playing a game here, pal.
Ukraine is game to you? How about I take your little bonus?
if you have a religion with a very sacred prayer, and I put it in a game, I'm making a game of your prayer. Is that acceptable? Is that something we should do? Where's the line between fantasy gaming and historical accuracy?
Well, I really feel that it's a matter of how respectful you are of what you're using in the first place. After all, if you turn it into a parody or a joke or vilify something that's normally completely innocent, that's the wrong way to do it.
So the question is, what is respectful? Let's say, let's go with my example of a prayer. You want to bring this prayer in, and because your game has fantasy elements, you want the prayer to actually physically manifest something. Is that respectful? You have to do research to understand if even putting it in the game is a breach of that respect, and then how far you can go with it. Also, putting these things in a game gives people access to cultures and ideas they wouldn't normally have, which is a good thing. There's a balance to be struck there.
Oh, yeah, full agree on that. And I've seen it done badly in some games where I just was like, oh, no, I can't deal with this. Not to harp on White Wolf's mistakes, because they actually did quite a bit of good ones, but they put out a splat book called Gypsy, and that word's considered a slur. Now, what they did inside, some of my Romani-descended friends said was okay, but the title itself turned them off and made them not like it. Because when, after selling, I think it was 10,000 copies of that book, somebody pointed it out to White Wolf that that's a slur and you're treating these people badly and in the way you're fictionalizing them in this. And they actually issued an apology, stopped printing it. If they ever make another one, they're going to call it Romani instead, which is the right name for those people, for the people. Go forward much better because they'll actually try and get some of them involved in it.
Let's say you're doing something that has something to do with the Ottoman Empire, and you're depicting something like an Armenian genocide. That's a very heavy topic. How are you depicting it? What side are the PCs on? What are the incentives to be on each side? And do those incentives make players want to empathize with people doing genocide?
And that particular example is a very complex one because the Ottoman Empire in and of itself as a culture is a fine source of inspiration for many things. But the Armenian genocide is no doubt, hands down, a very, very horrible thing. And also, the common man in the Ottoman Empire wasn't part of the genocide. To be honest, in my own games and worlds that I build, I tend to just ignore any genocides and get rid of that part and not use them.
Watch out, some of our commenters will accuse you of playing patty cake with the players, and that, you know, there's, unless you have these insane conflicts, that you can't make good stories.
Yeah, well, I do still have wars and things like that occurring in my worlds that I make, and all sorts of conflicts in other ways, some large scale, some small scale. Oh, it's just the topic of genocide is not one I want to touch. So Rokugan and Thea are what I called fractured mirror worlds. They're reflections of our world, but changed and different. And I think that's where they actually get away with the whole still being respectful to the source culture, but they change a lot of it so that anything that is different or odd or other way not what is in line with the original source can be hand waved away because it's not our world.
Let's go back to the world of darkness, where it very, very much takes from Judeo-Christian religion and tries to make it real. There's also games
especially the vampire line.
There are games like In Nomine, where you play angels and devils with a high Christian bent to it.
True. But also in those, they're actually set in our world.
Exactly. They're taking our real world religions and making a game out of it. I haven't seen all that much controversy over this.
No, because in Nomine specifically, I actually know that a couple of the publishers are Catholic themselves. And that's where a lot of the actual information about the different levels of angels, the different kinds of demons, and all of that sort of thing comes from for it. And they're actually sticking to the dogma of the faith pretty closely.
Right, what you know.
Mm-hmm. And it's a lot easier to be respectful if you're already a member of what you're writing.
Then there's the whole paying lip service to something, and that can bite you in the butt real big. For example, the Nemoidians in The Phantom Menace. George Lucas felt that there were no Asian representation in Star Wars, so he made the Nemoidians talk like Asians, and it really didn't go over well.
Especially as a lot of people ended up also saying that they were Jewish caricatures at the same time.
And it's really weird because that's science fiction. You can do anything. And yet this controversy happened.
Because he purposely set out to do it a certain way, and people noticed the way he did it. And the way he did it was not respectful to the place he was getting inspiration from.
It was paying lip service instead of being full-throated and embracing what's great about Asian people.
The whole writer's advice of write what you know. It's kind of BS, because how else would we get fantasy if we didn't write what we didn't know? But at the same time, if you're taking inspiration from a particular culture, do some research. Get more than just a surface level knowledge of it, and then go for building from that. I'm building night orders currently in my world, and that means I'm actually doing research on the Knight Templars and a few other knightly organizations just to try to understand how the different knightly orders throughout Europe worked, just so I can make completely different, unique ones myself.
If you're just making a game for your friends, make whatever you want. Don't worry about it. Just be respectful to your friends. You don't have to be respectful to anybody else. Other than making sure that your friends are happy. So don't take us talking here as saying, you can't do this in games. You can do whatever you want. When looking at published works and looking at when you want to move beyond your table and present your work to a larger audience, I think it's very important to understand the messages that you're sending inside the worlds that you're creating. James, great talking to you about this stuff. We're going to get more world building videos from you, right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think next time I might discuss how the basics of both top-down and bottom-up building, which are the two main ways, and how to go about that if you want to try it.
Thanks for watching, and remember,
never stop gaining experience.